In this video, I want to show you the basics of something new in WordPress called post formats. It was just introduced in 3.1, and the way it works is it allows users to choose between different stylings for their posts. You couldn't do that before except with a plugin, but now built into WordPress are these 9 post format types. These are names that WordPress is going to recognize in your coding when you're working with template tags and so forth. Those 9 right there. Here's what they look like in Add a New Post. There it is. It's a format box. You've seen that before briefly. And any formats that have been registered for this particular theme will show up in this box and people can choose from them. And there's the 9 there. And you can format any of these 9 any particular way you want. WordPress just recognizes the names. It doesn't say how to style them. That's up to you. And you can use CSS or conditional tags in your template files or a combination. So it's not just styling, but structure and everything can be changed based on what post format type you're using. One thing to keep in mind, these are totally independent of category. Okay? So if you want to style category 9 in a particular way, that's one thing. But a post could be in category 9 and be an aside. The aside has a totally different styling from category 9. And something that's in category 23 and is an aside, it will get styled just the same way as an aside. So they're category independent, a very important concept when you're thinking about how to use them. The other important thing to note is WordPress doesn't automatically use post formats. That format box doesn't automatically show up. You actually have to register them or add them, as it were, to your theme using your functions.php file. And let's take a quick look at that. This is how you invoke post formats. It's an add theme support function, and you just say it's post formats, and then in this array you tell it which of those 9 you want to invoke. In this particular case, it was just the 2. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you're using child themes, if the parent has post formats and then you do this in your child theme functions file, this is going to override what's in the parent post formats. It doesn't add on to the list, it literally replaces them. So keep that in mind as well. Let's take a look at how this actually works. If I go over here to our website, right now I've got some posts showing up, and here's the standard. I haven't done anything at all. This is just standard post formatting for this theme. So let me go into WordPress, and I'm going to now change this. Here's standard, which really just means there is no special formatting. It's whatever you put as the basic post styling. I'm going to now say this format is an aside, and I hit update, and when I go back over to here and refresh, we'll notice that this has changed now. Look at it's missing the title. The post date and the author are now below, and the lettering is a bit smaller as well. Tighter line spacing as well, line height between it. So how did we do that? Well, that was back here in our loop. We set up an if function that says, well, first of all, we want to check to make sure we can even use post formats, which isn't a bad idea at this point because some people may not have upgraded to 3.1 yet. So we check, does this exist? Yes, it does. Okay, then if it's an aside, which is the one we just chose, if it's an aside post format, then do the following. And notice there's no title anywhere in here. It goes straight into either summary or content. There's a conditional here depending on whether it's an archive or a search. And then down below, that's where we got our date and our author and so forth. So we've used a conditional here to test and see whether this post is an aside or not. So that's part of what we do. Then over here in the style sheet, then there's special styling. Remember, we changed the font size on this. We gave it a different line height. All of these sorts of things can then be affected by your style sheet. So those are just a few examples of how you can do these post formats and make use of them. But let me give you a couple of warnings here. Unlike template files, which are unique to a theme, so whatever you've got in your theme will be different from what's in another theme completely. But post formats are not part of your theme. They're actually part of the information about a post that's stored in WordPress. So it's going to carry over from theme to theme. So that means that if your new theme has styling and structure for a particular post format that's quite different, then your post is going to look quite different. That's fine. I mean, that's going to happen. That's going to change it. But what can be radically different is if you interpret a side in a very different way from me, then you're going to create a very different styling for a side than I will. And then if I change themes, suddenly all those posts that I thought were asides, they don't look like asides anymore because you treat them like they're quotes, perhaps. So WordPress doesn't make you style things a certain way, but there's going to be a bit of a convention evolving over these things, and they're kind of hoping that this convention will evolve, that we all style asides in a certain general way, quotes in a general way. We can get specific of how we do quotes, but we treat them the way you would treat quotes. That's a little iffy, I think, but it's got potential, and certainly you can make use of them as another way of letting your users have a bit more control over how posts are styled.